Amid the chaos of a quiet neighborhood jolted awake by the sound of sirens, a lone stray cat bolts through the streets, its piercing cries cutting through the noise. Firefighters on the scene pause as the feline persistently tugs at their attention, leading them into the shadows of a raging inferno. What they uncover next defies all odds and changes everything. In the early hours of the morning, the city's tranquility is shattered by the shrill wail of sirens. Firefighters spring into action, rushing toward a fire that has broken out in a two-story house on Maple Street. It's a typical emergency call for Engine 5, led by Captain Mark Adams, a seasoned firefighter with over 20 years of experience. He's seen it all: burning homes, accidents, and heart-stopping rescues. But something about this call feels different. The scene is chaotic, with flames licking at the sky, curling their way through the windows of the house. The wind is strong tonight, carrying the smoke in thick, gray clouds that make it difficult to see clearly. Fire trucks are parked along the street, hoses are being unfurled, and emergency lights flash as the fire department sets up to combat the blaze. Neighbors stand across the street, watching in disbelief, while the distant cries of people in distress mix with commotion. As Captain Adams approaches the front of the house, trying to get a better understanding of the situation, his attention is drawn to something unusual. A small, scruffy, and seemingly disoriented stray cat appears out of nowhere, darting around the firefighter's legs. The cat meows urgently, drawing the attention of the men and women working tirelessly to contain the blaze. Despite the chaos of the fire, the cat seems strangely calm, as if it has a purpose. Its matted fur and wide, golden eyes only add to the mystery of its presence. It moves quickly, its body low to the ground, weaving between the firefighters, as if guiding them to a specific point. At first, they ignore the animal, thinking it's just another frightened creature caught in the disaster. But then the cat stops and looks directly at Captain Adams, its eyes locking onto his. It's as if it's trying to communicate something, its eyes pleading for help. Captain Adams, who has been through countless fire calls in his career, can't ignore the strange behavior. There's something about the cat's urgency that doesn't sit right with him. He steps closer to the animal, motioning for his team to follow his lead. The cat takes off down the sidewalk, darting ahead of them with a determination that surprises even the seasoned firefighters. Without hesitation, Captain Adams signals to his team to follow the feline. The cat leads them down the block, weaving through yards and alleyways, guiding them as if it knows exactly where it's going. The firefighters move quickly, trying to keep up with the small creature as it trots confidently ahead. They are confused, but the animal's persistence and focus suggest that it has something important to show them. As they reach the end of the street, the cat stops in front of a seemingly abandoned house. Its tail flicks back and forth in the air, and it looks back at Captain Adams with wide, knowing eyes. The firefighters hesitate for a moment, unsure of what to do next. But the cat doesn't wait for their approval. It bolts toward the back of the house, disappearing around the corner. Captain Adams motions for his team to follow, and they rush to the back of the property. The house is eerily quiet, and the air is thick with the scent of smoke. They approach the back door, and as they step onto the porch, the cat appears once again, sitting calmly by the door. It lets out a soft meow before darting inside the house, vanishing into the darkness. The firefighters exchange confused glances but move quickly to open the door. Inside, the atmosphere is thick with smoke, but there's something off about this particular part of the house. The cat had led them to this spot for a reason. They step into the house carefully, their senses on high alert, as the pungent scent of burning wood fills their nostrils. It's clear that the fire is already spread throughout most of the house, but this room seems untouched, almost like it's been sealed off. Captain Adams calls out to his team to check for any signs of life. Suddenly, one of the firefighters spots something in the corner of the room, something that hadn't been noticed before. They find an unconscious elderly woman, lying motionless on the floor. The cat had led them directly to her, and without this unexpected turn of events, they would have missed her entirely. The woman is pulled to safety just in time, as the fire begins to close in on the building. The truth behind the stray cat's actions becomes clear. It wasn't just wandering aimlessly. It had been leading them to save a life. And this incredible, unexpected rescue marks the beginning of a story that will leave everyone involved astonished by the power of an animal's instinct and devotion. As the firefighters rush into the house, the chaos of the fire intensifies. The sound of crackling flames reverberates throughout the structure, and the heat is unbearable. Despite their urgency, the crew remains focused, scanning every room and corner for survivors. Captain Adams leads the team with precision, issuing orders over the noise of the blaze. The cat, still leading the way, darts through the smoke-filled house, its fur now singed at the edges, but its spirit unbroken. The firefighters know they don't have much time. The building is old, and it's clear that the fire is spreading rapidly. They're working against the clock, trying to clear the building before it collapses. Yet, in the midst of the madness, the stray cat persists. It doesn't run aimlessly. It seems to know exactly where to go, guiding the team through rooms they hadn't yet checked, its eyes fixed on the task at hand. The crew is baffled but follows the cat's lead, trusting that it has a purpose. As Captain Adams and his team push forward, they notice that the layout of the house isn't quite what it seemed from the outside. The fire is consuming the structure from the back, but the cat keeps darting deeper into the house, toward the front. There's something odd about this house. The windows are tightly shut, and the air feels stagnant. The fire should have been spreading through the walls and floors, but in this area, it seems strangely contained. The crew begins to question the circumstances. Could the fire have been intentionally set? Why was the house seemingly untouched in certain spots? These thoughts begin to gnaw at Captain Adams as he continues to follow the determined cat. He can't shake the feeling that there's more to this house than meets the eye. The cat's erratic behavior, its darting back and forth, its refusal to leave the building, raises more questions than answers. They reach a room in the front of the house, but it's locked. The firefighters try to break down the door, but it's reinforced. The urgency of the situation grows, and Captain Adams starts to feel a sense of dread. He orders one of the team members to get a crowbar, but before they can do so, the cat once again takes the lead. It circles the door, its tail flicking in agitation, and then suddenly, it darts off to the side of the room. It's as though it's found something that no one else has noticed. Captain Adams and the others follow, unsure of what to expect. The cat stops at a small window, partially obscured by thick drapes. The room is dark, but through the haze of smoke, they can make out the shape of a figure, something that doesn't belong in the middle of a fire. It's a child, barely a teenager, hunched in a corner, eyes wide with fear. Captain Adams motions to his team, and they move quickly to pull the child to safety. The room is filled with smoke, and the heat is unbearable. The boy is barely conscious, but he's alive. The cat's role in this rescue is undeniable. Without its guidance, they would never have found the child in time. As the crew evacuates the boy, they realize the full extent of the fire's destruction. The back of the house is already in flames, and the building's structural integrity is rapidly failing. But the discovery of the child raises new questions. How had the child ended up trapped in this house in the first place? Why was he alone, hiding in a room that was now being consumed by fire? The firefighters try to keep the situation in perspective as they focus on getting the child out of harm's way. But the circumstances surrounding his presence in the house are puzzling. As they make their way out of the building, Captain Adams can't shake the unsettling feeling that the fire wasn't the only danger they had to contend with. There's something darker at play here, something hidden beneath the surface of the rescue. As the firefighters clear the area, they notice the boy has a strange look on his face, one of both gratitude and fear. It's as though he knows something they don't. The cat, meanwhile, watches from a distance, as if keeping its distance but still ensuring the team's safety. The rescue mission ends, but the questions persist. Who was this boy, and why was he trapped in the burning house? Was the cat his? How had the animal known where to go? And most chilling of all, what had brought this family, or perhaps just the child, into the house in the first place? The tension grows as the team members gather around, exchanging theories and making sense of the events that transpired. Captain Adams feels a gnawing curiosity, pulling him back to the scene. He knows they've uncovered part of the truth, but the whole story remains elusive. As the sun begins to rise over the horizon, casting a warm glow over the neighborhood, Captain Adams feels a sense of unease. The mystery of the stray cat's actions, and the boy's role in it all, will linger in his mind long after the flames have been put out. The fire rages on, with the flames consuming more of the house every second. The smoke has thickened to the point where the firefighters can barely see in front of them. Yet the stray cat continues to lead the way, its paws pattering against the floor as it rushes through the house, determined to guide the crew deeper into the smoke-filled nightmare. Captain Adams and his team push forward, hearts pounding with adrenaline. Time is running out. The situation has escalated from an ordinary rescue mission to something much more urgent, and the discovery of the child has only intensified the mystery. In the midst of the chaos, the crew reaches the heart of the fire, where the temperature feels almost unbearable. The entire structure seems on the verge of collapse. The walls creak and groan under the pressure of the blaze, and each passing moment increases the danger. The firefighters are working at full capacity, desperately trying to contain the flames and rescue anyone still inside. Suddenly, the cat comes to a halt, its tail flicking nervously. It pauses at the entrance to a small room at the back of the house, eyes wide and focused on something within. Captain Adams signals for his team to stop and surveys the area. His instincts are telling him that something is wrong. The cat's sudden hesitation is unusual, as though it sensed something they haven't. He approaches the door cautiously, his hands gloved and trembling from the heat. As he pushes the door open, the full extent of the fire becomes clear. The flames are inching closer to the room, and the heat is almost unbearable. But the cat doesn't retreat. It steps inside the room without fear, leading the way as if it knows exactly where to go. The team follows, adrenaline coursing through their veins. The moment they cross the threshold into the room, something catches their attention, a low, almost inaudible sound, a faint whimper that cuts through the noise of the flames. Captain Adams' heart skips a beat. He signals for the team to stop and listens carefully. The whimper becomes clearer, a sound of distress, and the source is unmistakable. It's the child, the boy who had been trapped in the building. The cat had led them right to him. The room is filled with smoke, and the air is thick with the smell of burning wood. But in the corner, curled into a ball, the child lies unconscious, his chest rising and falling weakly with shallow breaths. Captain Adams rushes to him, kneeling beside the boy, his hands trembling as he checks for signs of life. He can feel the heat of the fire creeping closer, but his focus is entirely on the child. The cat watches from a distance, its body tense, its gaze unwavering. The firefighters spring into action, working together to pull the boy to safety. They know time is against them, and the fire is quickly consuming everything in its path. The smoke is growing thicker by the second, and the building's structural integrity is becoming increasingly compromised. Captain Adams calls for the team to move quickly, but his mind is consumed by the mystery of the cat's actions. As they make their way back toward the exit, the cat refuses to leave. It follows them, its movements urgent, as if ensuring they make it out in time. But just as they near the exit, a loud crack echoes through the building. A beam from the ceiling collapses, blocking their path. The firefighters scramble, trying to clear the way, but the fire is spreading too fast. Panic sets in as they realize the danger they're in. There's no way out through the front door. In that moment of uncertainty, the cat darts forward once again, its eyes bright and determined. It makes a beeline for a small window on the side of the house, one that had previously been overlooked in the chaos of the rescue. The cat scratches at the window, pawing desperately at the frame, as though signaling to the team that this is their escape route. Captain Adams follows the cat's lead, his heart racing. The team works together to break the window open, just as the fire reaches the other side of the house, sending a wave of heat through the room. They push through the window one by one, emerging into the fresh air outside. The boy is carried to safety, and the team scrambles away from the burning building, but the cat remains by their side, watching from a distance. As the fire rages behind them, the firefighters take a moment to catch their breath. The boy, still unconscious but alive, is immediately attended to by paramedics. Captain Adams watches the stray cat, which now sits a safe distance away, its eyes never leaving the team. He feels a surge of gratitude toward the animal. Without the cat's unrelenting guidance, the boy would not have been saved. The discovery of the boy's presence in the house, and the cat's actions, is no longer a mystery. It's a testament to the extraordinary bond between humans and animals. As the fire continues to rage, the firefighters can't help but feel a deep sense of the cat's unwavering devotion to the child. Its uncanny ability to lead them to safety is something they will never forget. The situation may have been dire, but thanks to the bravery of one stray cat, a life was saved. And in the end, it was the cat's instincts, not just its actions, that made the difference. As the firefighters and the stray cat make their way out of the burning house, the situation begins to stabilize. The intensity of the moment has begun to subside, and the adrenaline that surged through Captain Adams and his crew starts to level off. They had just escaped the jaws of danger, but there was still work to be done, and the tension hadn't completely dissipated. Captain Adams leads the way, checking his team's conditions to ensure they're safe. He gestures for his crew to continue moving away from the building, urging them to stay focused. With a fire raging in the background, it's clear they need to distance themselves further before the situation could potentially take another turn for the worse. Their exit had been narrow, and even though they had made it out with the boy, there were still risks to consider. Once clear of the immediate danger, the paramedics begin attending to the boy. His body is weak and he's still unconscious, but the signs of life are strong. They immediately begin performing CPR to stabilize him, and within moments, the boy begins to breathe more deeply, responding to the medical team's efforts. Captain Adams can't help but feel a surge of relief, but his mind is still racing with questions. What had prompted the stray cat to lead them into that burning house? What had motivated the animal to show such determination and focus, risking its own safety to help a child it likely didn't even know? The mystery of the cat's actions gnaws at him, but he knows the boy's life is the priority right now. As the paramedics continue to care for the boy, Captain Adams watches the stray cat from a distance. The animal had followed them out of the house, but now it sits a few feet away, watching the scene with quiet observance. It doesn't appear to be in distress, but there's an air of solemnity about the cat, as though it's content with its mission being completed. A firefighter named Mike approaches Captain Adams, wiping sweat from his brow. "That was too close," he says, shaking his head. "We almost didn't make it out of there." Captain Adams nods grimly. "I've never seen a cat act like that before. It led us right to him. Didn't hesitate for a second." Mike looks at the stray cat, his brow furrowed. "Yeah, it's like the animal knew exactly what it was doing. It's almost as if it was guiding us." Captain Adams doesn't respond immediately. Instead, he steps closer to the cat, taking a moment to observe it more closely. There's something about the way the cat's eyes flicker, the way it looks back at the house before turning its attention back to the team. It almost seems wise in a way. "Maybe it did know what it was doing," Captain Adams mutters, more to himself than to Mike. "Maybe that's the truth behind all of this." Mike steps back, giving the cat more space, but there's still an unsettled feeling in the air. The crew is clearly shaken by the close call, and the heroic actions of the cat have left them with more questions than answers. What could have led this stray cat to make such a dangerous journey through a house on fire to rescue a child it had never met? Meanwhile, the boy begins to stir. His eyelids flutter slightly, and with each passing second, his breathing becomes more regular. The paramedics continue their work, but there's no denying the fact that the child's chances for survival have dramatically improved. Captain Adams feels a rush of gratitude and relief as the boy begins to regain consciousness. "Hey, kid," the paramedic calls softly. "You're going to be okay." The boy's eyes blink open, slowly adjusting to the light. He gazes around, his confusion evident, but as his vision clears, his eyes lock onto something, and it's not the firefighters or the paramedics. It's the stray cat, who's still sitting silently in the distance, watching with calm, unblinking eyes. For a moment, time seems to freeze. The boy's lips quiver, and he weakly whispers a name. "Patches," he says, almost as if in a dream. Captain Adams looks at the cat, and then back at the boy. The paramedics pause for a moment, and the boy's voice becomes more firm. "Patches, you saved me." The cat's ears twitch in acknowledgement, but it doesn't move from its spot. It doesn't need to. The bond between the boy and the animal is unmistakable, even in this moment of chaos. It's clear now that the cat had been more than just a guide. It had been the boy's protector, his silent companion, leading him through the flames and ensuring his safety at all costs. The emotional weight of the situation begins to sink in. The firefighters exchange glances, their expressions a mixture of awe and wonder. Captain Adams's face softens, and for the first time since the rescue, he feels a deep sense of peace settle in his chest. The heroism displayed wasn't just from the firefighters. It had come from a small, seemingly ordinary stray cat who had just accomplished the extraordinary. As the paramedics prepare to transport the boy to the hospital for further treatment, Captain Adams approaches the cat once again. With a newfound understanding, he crouches down beside it, and for the first time in the entire ordeal, he offers a quiet word of thanks. "Thank you," he says softly. "You saved him." The cat stares at him with calm, unblinking eyes. For a moment, it seems to understand the magnitude of what it had done, but then, just as quickly, it stands up and pads off into the distance, as if its mission is complete. With the boy safely in the hands of medical professionals, and the cat's job finished, the firefighters exchange a few final words and begin to head back to their trucks. The fire may be out, but the impact of this day will stay with them forever. And in their minds, they know there's something far greater than chance at play here. A small cat, driven by a purpose they may never fully understand, had led them to a child's life and saved him when no one else could. The story of the heroic stray cat has taken a strange, unexpected turn. What began as a simple rescue mission, one in which the cat had unknowingly led a team of firefighters to a burning building, saving the life of a young boy, was not over yet. As the crew watches the cat disappear into the distance, they can't shake off a nagging feeling that something is still unresolved. Captain Adams, though relieved, begins to sense that there's more to the cat's actions than it had initially understood. As the paramedics prepare to transport the boy, a sudden new danger begins to unfold. The team had assumed the fire was under control, but as they watch from a distance, the glow of the flames seems to reignite. A thick plume of smoke begins to rise from the house, spreading more quickly than anyone anticipated. The cat, still perched on a nearby sidewalk, suddenly looks up, its head tilting slightly as it stares in the direction of the building. "Isn't that supposed to be out?" Mike, one of the firefighters, asks, squinting toward the house. "I thought so," Captain Adams replies, his voice tense. "That's not normal." The scene takes on a surreal edge. What had initially seemed like a controlled fire is now escalating again. And as they watch, the unmistakable sound of crackling wood fills the air, signaling that something in the house is reignited. Captain Adams orders his crew to check the area again, wondering if they missed something in their haste to get out. "I'm going back in," Captain Adams says, his face hardening with determination. "We need to make sure no one's still inside. The boy's not the only one we need to look out for." The urgency of the situation is palpable. Captain Adams grabs his gear, rallying his team for another sweep of the house. Mike, though nervous, follows suit. As they approach the building once more, they hear a familiar sound, the same unmistakable sound of the cat's light paw steps padding along the street. They both look over, only to see the stray cat still sitting outside, but now it's in the middle of the street, looking directly at them. Its posture is still, but its eyes gleam in the dimming daylight, as if aware of the danger that's brewing. "Why is it still here?" Mike mutters under his breath. "Shouldn't it be gone by now?" Captain Adams is equally baffled, but the answer comes to him in an instant. The cat knows. It's not leaving because it understands something we don't. Just as the firefighters begin to move toward the building, something catches their attention. From the corner of their eye, they spot movement, a shadow slipping through the front yard. They freeze for a moment, unsure of what to make of it. Could it be another person trapped inside? Or perhaps something else, something unexpected? Captain Adams waves his crew to stay back. He motions to Mike, his face serious. "You go in with me. We need to clear the building before anyone else gets hurt." Without waiting for a reply, the two firefighters charge toward the front door of the house, carefully entering through the back, where the smoke isn't as thick. The heat is unbearable, and the air is dense with the remnants of fire. They advance cautiously, calling out into the smoke. "Hello. Is anyone in there?" Captain Adams yells. His voice is muffled by the smoke. There's no response at first, but then from deeper within the house, they hear a faint sound, a soft mewing. It's the unmistakable sound of a cat, and it's coming from inside. "What the?" Mike starts, eyes wide with disbelief. "There's another cat in there." "Stay sharp," Captain Adams warns, his grip tightening on his flashlight. He knows that whatever the cat's connection to the boy is, it's no coincidence. There's something more at play here. They move deeper into the house, their visibility getting worse with each step. The walls seem to close in around them, and the air feels thick and suffocating. As they get closer to the source of the mewing, the noise grows louder. Finally, they spot a small, huddled figure in the corner, a kitten barely old enough to walk, trapped and crying for help. "There's another one," Mike says, stepping forward and reaching out to the small creature. But before he can grab it, a loud crash rings out from above them. The building groans, the weight of the structure threatening to come down on them at any moment. "Get out of here!" Captain Adams roars, grabbing Mike and pulling him away. The kitten continues to cry, but there's no time to save it, at least not yet. The firefighters stumble back to the exit, their lungs burning from the toxic air. As they emerge from the building, they look back to see a final burst of flames shoot out from the windows, signaling the end of the house. There's no more time to risk their lives. The kitten, for now, remains behind, its future uncertain. But there's something else at play here, something deeper than just a fire and a stray cat. As the firefighters regroup, Captain Adams locks eyes with the animal once again, understanding now that the cat's presence in the fire was no accident. It had been leading them towards something far more important than just saving a child. It had led them to a revelation that the rescue mission was far from over. The fire may have been extinguished, but the mystery of the stray cat and the kitten in the house still hangs in the air, unanswered. Captain Adams realizes that they've uncovered a much larger puzzle, one that he will need to piece together before he can truly say the job is done. The conflict between life and death, between rescue and abandonment, is far from over. There's more to this story than anyone could have imagined. The firefighters stand outside the smoldering ruins of the house, their bodies weary from the heat and smoke, their faces streaked with soot. Captain Adams, still trying to process everything that has happened, surveys the scene. The immediate danger is past, but the questions linger like the smoke in the air. What exactly did the stray cat know? And why had it guided them into the flames? As the last of the emergency vehicles pull away, Captain Adams finds himself drawn once again to the small, unassuming cat that had led them to this point. Its presence, so quiet yet so undeniably important, has left a deep impression on him. The cat, for its part, seems unaffected by the chaos. It sits calmly at the edge of the road, as if watching the aftermath of the fire, its eyes never leaving the wreckage of the building. Mike, the firefighter who had been with Captain Adams throughout the ordeal, approaches cautiously. "So what now?" he asks, glancing at the cat. "We saved the kid, but there's still a lot we don't understand about all of this." Captain Adams sighs deeply. "I don't know, Mike. I think there's more to this story than just a random fire. That cat, it didn't just lead us to save the boy. It knew something. I think it was trying to protect something. Maybe the kitten we found inside." Mike looks back toward the building. The firefighters have cleared the site now, but the charred remains of the house are still smoking, sending up tendrils of ash into the sky. "So, you think the cat knew there was another life at risk?" he asks, his voice tinged with disbelief. "It's possible," Captain Adams replies, his gaze focused on the cat. "But there's something else I'm wondering. Why did it keep coming back? It wasn't just a one-time thing. It let us hear more than once. It almost seemed purposeful." The thought hangs in the air as they both turn to look at the cat again. It hasn't moved an inch. In fact, it seems more resolute than ever, as if it's waiting for something, as if it has unfinished business. Suddenly, they hear a soft cry from behind them. Both men spin around to see a small form moving toward them, a kitten, limping slightly but otherwise unharmed. The kitten looks up at them with wide, trusting eyes, its tiny body trembling slightly from the shock of the fire but otherwise intact. Captain Adams's heart skips a beat. "The kitten, it's alive," he whispers, amazed that the small creature had survived the blaze. But even more surprising, the kitten is now walking directly toward the stray cat, who rises to its feet as if it had been expecting this moment. Mike watches in stunned silence as the two animals meet in the middle of the street. The stray cat gently nudges the kitten with its head, guiding it away from the wreckage of the building. It's a quiet, almost tender moment that speaks volumes without saying a word. The cat had not only led them to safety, but had also been protecting something far more fragile, something that had needed its help just as much as the boy did. Captain Adams can hardly believe what he's witnessing. "I think we were part of something bigger here," he says softly, looking at the two animals now walking side by side. That cat wasn't just trying to help the boy. It was trying to save its own family. As the cat leads the kitten down the road, Captain Adams and Mike look at each other, both feeling a sense of awe and gratitude. The cat had proven to be more than just a stray animal. It had been their guide, their protector, and in the end, it had brought them to something truly remarkable, a bond between two creatures that transcended everything else. "I think we've done all we can," Mike says, his voice quiet but full of respect. "We saved the boy, and we helped that cat. That's what matters now." Captain Adams nods. "Yeah, we did good today." But as they turn to leave, they hear the faintest sound, a soft meow from the stray cat, still watching them from the distance. It's as if the cat is thanking them, acknowledging their part in the rescue. And for the first time in a long while, Captain Adams feels that his work as a firefighter has brought him to a deeper understanding of the world around him. Sometimes the smallest creatures, those that are often overlooked, can teach us the most valuable lessons. The two firefighters walk back to their truck, content in the knowledge that, despite the tragedy and the destruction, something beautiful has come from it. The boy is safe, the kitten is saved, and the stray cat has found its family. As they drive away, Captain Adams looks in the rearview mirror, his eyes lingering on the figure of the cat, now far behind him. He smiles softly, knowing that this is a story that will stay with him forever. A story about the unexpected heroes who show up when you least expect it and the unspoken bonds that connect all living things, no matter how big or small. The scene unfolds in the quiet aftermath of the harrowing rescue. The fire trucks are pulling away, the streets now clear of the chaos that had once dominated the neighborhood. Captain Adams, standing with Mike, watches as the stray cat leads the kitten further down the road, the two animals walking side by side, as if to say, mission accomplished. The neighborhood is beginning to settle. The emergency lights fade into the distance, but the memory of the cat's bravery and the surprising twist of fate linger. The kitten, once trapped in a dangerous blaze, now finds itself in the protective care of the stray cat who had led the firefighters to the source of danger without hesitation. Captain Adams is left with the realization that not only had the cat saved a boy, but it had saved its own family too. As they stand by their truck, the weight of the day's events continues to settle in. It had been a routine call at first, a fire, nothing out of the ordinary. But the stray cat had turned everything upside down, its actions proving that courage, loyalty, and love don't come with labels or expectations. Sometimes, heroes come in the most unexpected forms, and not all of them were uniforms. The sun begins to dip below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the scene. Captain Adams thinks about the boy, now safe and recovering, and the kitten who had barely survived the flames, now being cared for by the stray. In the midst of everything, something miraculous had happened. The animals had worked together, not just to survive, but to protect each other. The sense of camaraderie between the cat and the kitten was undeniable, and it had given Captain Adams a profound sense of hope. Mike, I don't know if we'll ever fully understand why that cat did what it did today, Captain Adams says quietly, his voice heavy with the realization that this wasn't just another call, it was a reminder of something greater. But I do know one thing. We were part of something important today. Mike nods in agreement. Yeah, it feels like we just helped write a story no one will believe unless they saw it themselves. With one final glance at the road where the stray cat and kitten had disappeared into the distance, Captain Adams climbs into the fire truck. His mind races with thoughts of the day's events, how something as simple as a stray cat could turn into a hero in its own right. It wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about instinct, loyalty, and the protection of what mattered most. And sometimes that's all that matters. The truck's engine roars to life, and they drive off, leaving behind a story that will continue to resonate long after the sirens fade. As the truck heads back to the station, a thought lingers in the captain's mind. The cat's journey wasn't over. There is more to its story, more than just a stray leading a group of firefighters. Maybe the cat's instincts had known something the humans didn't. After all, how many stories of unsung heroes remain untold simply because we don't know where to look? This story is just one of many moments when compassion, bravery, and the unexpected collide. It shows that heroes can come from places we least expect, and that no matter how small or humble, every act of kindness can make a difference. If this incredible rescue story touched your heart, remember, there's always a chance to help someone in need, even when the heroes come in the form of animals. If you believe in the power of compassion, click the like button, share this story, and leave a comment below telling us about a time when you witnessed a small act of heroism. And don't forget to subscribe for more heartwarming stories like this one. Let's keep sharing the love, one story at a time.